Hello and welcome back to Dueling Grounds. So today we are going to be discussing the Monday 24th of November BNR. So not many changes to talk about today, only two, one ban and one unban. So firstly, the banned card is Nadu Winged Wisdom and the unbanned card is Breya Ethereum Shaper. Adam, what are your initial reactions to this BNR?
I think it's quite conservative BNR. It's quite safe. Nadu is an incredibly powerful creature. It's banned in every other format it could be legal in. And once you have a commander that makes use of Nadu in a very effective way, like you seen with Peter Parker, then I don't think it's very surprising that it's going to go. Yeah, Breya was a lot before our time. Looking online, it looks like the last Breya list that were in tournaments were from 2017. And Magic has changed an awful lot since 2017. Although looking at them, they just seem to be like good stuff control decks, not necessarily built around artifacts from the ground up, but lots and lots of what were efficient spells for the time. So I can imagine that it would probably be built in a similar way. You just get some value from your commander and play a few incidental artifacts. What do you think?
I mean, initial disappointment that Nadu is banned. Not because I don't think Nadu should be banned, just because Flubs plays Nadu and they keep banning cards from Flubs. Not because of how they perform in Flubs, but because of how they perform in the meta overall.
How important was Nadu in Flubs for you?
It wasn't...
He was quite big for you, wasn't it? Yes, I remember.
It wasn't super built around Nadu. You just kind of sometimes incidentally got to do Nadu combo.
Yeah.
So ultimately it just makes the deck a little bit worse, but it isn't completely backbreaking. And they banned that Underworld Breach. I didn't give up on the deck, so I'll keep trying to make it work. But as a whole impact on the format, I think it probably is for the best.
Yeah.
I think back to Relic Fest and how every round went like 20 minutes over time.
No,
there are lots of different factors behind this, but I wouldn't be surprised if a big part of that is the non-deterministic loops of Nadu.
Yeah,
and how, as a Nadu pilot, I think sometimes when you go to turns, you can be like reasonable about it and be like, okay, well, we've got 5 turns, but neither one of us could win. But realistically, the Nadu pilot could win on any of their turns, and each of those turns could take a very long time.
Yeah.
I think also one of my justifications before that why Nadu was fine is that in a 60-card format, where you have 4 copies of Nadu and 4 copies of your combo pieces, it's a lot easier to achieve the combo.
Yeah.
But having seen people playing Peter Parker decks or 4-color Thrasios decks, it actually isn't very hard to achieve an RD combo. There's just too many efficient shooters. And the main thing people are saying about Peter Parker being the reason for the ban is because the Peter Parker deck wasn't just an all-in combo deck. It was also just like a good mid-range deck anyway. We've
said it so many times on camera, but if you can have a good mid-range deck with a combo backup, it is probably the best thing you can do in the format.
Just to quickly go over the cards for people who aren't familiar with the cards. Nadu is a 3-mana 3/4 flyer. I think that's one of the things that when we were playing in early playtesting, I was just surprised that it's a 3/4. You know, you think it's going to be a 3/3.
Yeah, big stats.
It's a really efficient body for its mana cost.
Yeah.
A 3-mana 3/4 flyer, bird wizard. I think the coolest part of the card is its creature type. And it says, creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, reveal the top card of your library of its land, put it into play, otherwise put it into your hand. This ability triggers only twice each turn, but crucially, that's twice each turn per creature, as opposed to twice each turn overall. I think the card is the most efficient, the most well-known combo piece is Shuko, because that's what we played in Modern, which is any equipment with 0 mana, or any creature that has a 0 mana activated ability of it targets. You get to do Nadu's trigger twice, and you just kind of dump your deck into the board.
It's crazy. The other card then is Breya Ethereum Shaper, which is white, blue, black, red, for a legendary artifact creature human. It's a 4/4, see a 4 mana 4/4. Like, this is an old card, one of these stats. When Breya Ethereum Shaper enters the battlefield, make 2 1/1 Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying. Then you can pay 2 mana and sacrifice 2 artifacts to choose one of the following. Breya deals 3 damage to a player or a planeswalker. Target creature gets -4/-4 till end of turn, or you gain 5.
I think you said it best. This is quite a conservative unban. As you said, we've not been playing the format for super long, but just looking at this card on rate, it doesn't necessarily excite me as a player. I think, as you said, my first thought is like an artifacts deck, but you said historically speaking that they weren't even artifact decks in the first place.
I've had a look, and it looks like they'll made me 4-color good stuff piles, which is not terribly surprising. But
I think the best way to put it is that we have a resident artifact pilot at our shop, Josh, and he messaged me earlier today talking about his Akiri Line Slinger deck that he's building. And I said, have you not seen the new ban list update? And he was like, I still want to build Akiri. So not even our Artifact pilot is that excited by this. But that being said, even though I'm not necessarily excited about seeing this card, I don't think it's going to see much play. I'm happy with it being an unban. I think that's the perfect argument for why this card shouldn't be on the ban list.
Yeah, it shouldn't be on the ban list, so that's fine to unban it then. Yeah, seems good.
100%. I do think that... So yeah, overall, these changes are good. Sad for flubs, but sadly, the health of the metagame is more important than the health of flubs.
As it should be.
As it should be. But I think the other thing to discuss then would be, these are the cards that have been banned. I was expecting to see more from this BNR.
Indeed.
More bans, potentially, and more unbans as well. So I think the other thing to go over would be the notable cards that weren't banned today, and also cards that weren't unbanned. Most of this I'm getting from, I put a post out onto YouTube a couple of days ago asking people what cards they were hoping or expecting to see banned.
Yeah.
And I think the main one that people have been discussing is Skull Clamp. So it's a 1 mana equipment, the equip cost of 1. It says equipped creature gets +1/-1, and whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. So talking about the design of Skull Clamp is originally that it was going to give equipped creature +1/+1, and then they changed it to be +1/-1 because they thought that it needed to have some sort of downside.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, that just became the biggest upside, because it kind of like combos with X1s, because you just get to pay 1 and draw 2 cards.
Mistakes in Magic's design history, I think.
Yeah, that and Nardu. So we're discussing both in the same video. So obviously Skull Clamp is, as you said, it's one of the biggest design mistakes in Magic history. An extremely fun and powerful card. So the reason Skull Clamp is being discussed isn't necessarily because of Skull Clamp's power on its own, because it's power in combination with Cloud, a 2 mana 2/1, which ETBs and searches for an equipment to put into your hand, and then doubles the triggers of equipment that are equipped to it. So combined with Skull Clamp, this is a draw 4 for 4 mana, and it keeps a Skull Clamp in play, which can continue to draw cards throughout the game.
Yeah.
Cloud, obviously, won Relic Fest. It was the only deck to have 2 appearances in the top 8 at Relic Fest. Adam, how do you feel about Skull Clamp staying legal?
I think Skull Clamp's been around in the format for an awfully long time. I think, isn't Cloud the villain here, really? The fact that it's a, what did we call it? Stoneforge Mystic in the command zone. It conveniently has 1 toughness. I'm sure it wasn't designed with Skull Clamp in mind, but it's very convenient that it has 1 toughness, and it doubles the triggers. So you can draw 4 cards. It seems like I think Cloud is the bigger villain here, but maybe you should ban the payoff and not the enabler. I don't know.
I think that we got it's quite funny. We've got to admit we were embarrassingly wrong about Cloud in our set review. Cool. Potentially, I don't really feel like this is a good command zone card. I mean, I could be wrong. Could be wrong. We said it's an interesting card if you like it.
Right.
Yeah, and then it ended up being one of the best cards in the set.
Yeah.
I think that. So I played Feli at Relic Fest, and one of the biggest questions people asked me was, "Why aren't you playing Cloud?"
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I much prefer Felia's playstyle. I find it more interesting, and I also kind of prefer the deck. I'm not saying it's necessarily more powerful, but I think it's got more lines, it's got more versatility.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily think that I want to see Cloud banned. I like the deck as it is, even with Skull Clamp. I'm not saying it's not powerful,
right?
But I don't think it's a broken deck. It performed well at Relic Fest, but it wasn't overly dominant, and I don't think there are any play pattern issues from it either.
Okay, fine. Well then, we're probably both okay with it. Both cards continuing.
Yeah. So Adam, what was the next card that wasn't banned? The
next card we would talk about was Deadpool Trading Card, and just as a quick reminder, 2 black red for a 5/3. When it enters the battlefield, exchange this text box with another creature's, and the text box is at the beginning of upkeep. You lose 3 life and pay 3 mana, sacrifice the creature, and each other player draws a card. So, I don't like this card. I just think toxic is maybe too strong a word, but it's just so miserable if you're playing creature deck, especially if you want to play your commander, which is a weird thing to do in a commander-centric format, because it's so much worse than just ETB kill your creature. It's like a 3/4 for 1. I mean, because you got to kill Deadpool, and then your creature's gonna bolt you every turn, and you're gonna have to lose a card most likely to get rid of it, to get rid of your creature that's had his text box swaps. Give another card back to Deadpool. I know that as things have panned out in the format, it hasn't appeared to be that powerful, but I would still want to ban it for gameplay reasons. I just think it's a miserable card to play against, personally.
Yeah.
Ryan, what do you think?
Well, I think there are a lot of miserable cards in Magic. I think that's part of the fun of Magic. As you said, I think when Deadpool first came out, there was so much chatter online about how it needed to be banned.
Yeah.
I think that there's been a lot less. It's funny that I've heard a lot less chatter about Deadpool ban this time than last
Same.
BNR, which I think is probably a sign that it probably isn't as broken as everyone thought it was last BNR. Not to deny the card's powerful, but the fact that it isn't taking up so much space in the conversation means that people clearly aren't as bothered by it as they used to be. I like the card. I almost kind of like its place in the meta. I think it can kind of keep decks like Aragon in check, because obviously it's such a powerful play into Aragon, which also didn't have as much of a metagame share at this Relic Fest as well. So I think it's quite interesting, a lot of data to gather. And I'm not denying that the card is powerful. I'm not biased because I have a Deadpool deck, because I never touch that Deadpool deck. I give it to other people more often than playing it myself.
You do indeed.
But I don't know, I quite like it. I think it's got some really neat interactions in the format as well. I think it's a really cool answer to cards like Tritium Nemesis.
Sure.
It's almost like a White Council's Judgment. I mean, it's a lot stronger than that. I guess Rakdos already has access to Chaos Defiler, so they already kind of have a card that fills that space. But no, I'm happy with Deadpool staying in the format, at least for now, unless something else that comes out that breaks it.
So the next card we talk about?
A Parallax Wave. So this is Toby's favourite card, so I'm glad it wasn't banned or we'd lose him from our FNMs. It's a 4-mana enchantment. Fading 5, context that says that when this enchantment enters, you put 5 fading counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a fading counter, and if you can't, you sacrifice it. But you can also remove a fade counter from Parallax Wave to remove target creature from the game, and then when Parallax Wave leaves play, each player returns to play all cards he or she owns removed from the game with Parallax Wave. Again, really controversial old card. I was not aware how powerful this card was before I started playing this format. And it's a doozy, that's for sure. It's versatile. It's most often used as kind of like a Headliner Scarlet-esque effect. You remove all your opponent's creatures and then you kind of have game on board. But it can be used earlier in the game to kind of control your opponent's board a little bit. It can be used, the mode that kind of comes up least often but is still very relevant, is you kind of flicker your board.
Yeah.
Protect it from a board wipe, or just kind of get all your ETBs brought back again. I played this card in Thalia at Relic Fest, and there's a lot of really cool interactions in Thalia in particular, because you can kind of blink a bunch of tokens, then flicker the Parallax Wave, resetting it, or just kind of keep free creatures hostage for the rest of the game. So, and Adam, how do you feel about Parallax Wave staying legal?
It's really powerful. I wouldn't be surprised if a ban. I have no strong feelings about it. It is, it's like a repeatable removal spell or a one-sided wrath. It's difficult to understate actually how powerful it is. The combos with things like what's the one?
Containment Priest.
Containment Priest. I know you always remember the card names. It wouldn't surprise me if it was gone, but I'm not desperate to see it go. It's probably the most boring way I can put it.
I think the next card we're talking about, Adam, is probably your favourite card that we're going to discuss today.
I don't know. It's definitely in my top 5. I don't know.
That we're discussing. That we're discussing today. I said sorry.
We're discussing today. Yeah. The Mental Misstep I think it's really good. I wouldn't want to see it go. I think it's a very aggressive and proactive format, and I think being able to have interaction when you're on the draw on turn 1 is really important. And there are plenty of games that I would have just lost. I feel like I would have just lost if I hadn't been able to miss that my opponent's turn 1 drop.
So what does the card do? Sorry, just to remind people.
Sorry, we were going to start with that, weren't we? So Mental Misstep's an instant. It costs a Phyrexian blue, so you can pay blue mana, or you can play 2 life. It's an instance, a counter target spell with converted mana cost 1. So it has to be exactly 1, not more, not less. And that's all it does. It's great. It has seen bans, I think, in other formats, Legacy and Modern and whatnot. But here, I like it. I think it's a bit of a check. And especially with Force of Will gone, I think having something to keep faster decks in check is really important. Now, I appreciate that faster decks can also use it themselves, but I think that's a trade-off that I'm willing to have exist.
I have 2 main points about Mental Misstep, and that is that, okay, one, we're talking a lot of Magic's design mistakes today, but I think that this format almost has like a built-in solution to the design mistake of Mental Misstep. The problem with Mental Misstep back when it was in Standard and other formats is that it's a blue card, but you can play it for 2 life. So you just kind of had this situation where every deck had to run Mental Misstep regardless of if it's blue or not. We play in a format with Color Identity, which means that only blue set decks have access to the Mental Misstep, which I think in my opinion kind of fixes the design mistake of it.
Well,
I mean, it kind of just becomes a situation
blue decks and Boros aggro decks.
Yeah, that was the other point I was going to mention. Is that no, it's okay. The only kind of exception to this is like the Yoshimaru partner deck, which is kind of playing Jeskai, just kind of to splash Mental Misstep. Tim again at Relic Fest was saying that Mental Misstep is the truth. He was enthusiastic with the card. It made me happy because I've been so big on Jeskai Yoshi.
As much as we respect Tim, I think it's more it should be talked about. You're the one who was championing this before it was being done.
Yeah, I was big on it. I think that's a weird outlier. Generally speaking, I think the rule still holds true. Not every single deck in the format can play Misstep, and I do think that there is a real concession the Jeskai Yoshi decks are playing. They are having to eliminate in theory, powerful commander swap with Flage in the command zone. So they are kind of paying a cost in order to have access to Misstep. I think it's still worth doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, as I said earlier, I think that the fact that you can only in theory have access to this in blue decks kind of cancels out the design mistake.
Yeah. Helps it from staying unbanned.
I think it is still very strong. I mean, there's enough good one drops. This isn't like a card that's only good early, because one drops continue to see relevant throughout the game. But no, I don't want to see it banned, at least not at the moment.
We agree on that one.
We agree on that one.
And the next card we're talking about, Ryan?
The next one we're talking about is Fury. So Fury is 5 mana, 3 and 2 red for a 3/3 with double strike, and when it enters the battlefield, deal 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And crucially, the most important line of text on this card is evoke, exile a red card from your hand. So evoke meaning you can cast it without paying its mana cost. You instead exile a red card. It enters, but then it sacrifices. So you get to get the ETB when the card dies. Fury obviously saw a lot of play in Modern. This is a Modern Horizons card. I think actually the only Modern Horizons card, apart from Nadu, we're talking about, which is funny because they seem to dominate the format, but a lot of these are just older cards. But anyway, Fury saw a lot of play in Modern in a Rakdos Scam, which was a deck that kind of abused the Evoke Elementals and then ways to recur them from the graveyard.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of people talking about a Fury ban. I don't really want to ban the card. I like it. Weirdly enough, I quite like the Evoke Elementals from a design standpoint. I think they're very powerful in Modern. But in Eternal formats, especially this format, I think they're all really fun. I think it's harder to kind of have that built-in scam deck because there isn't the density of them in the formats. Then they're kind of being played almost fairer. I don't think an evoked Fury is a problem. I guess the fact that you can play it for 5 in the late game means that the card is relevant throughout the whole game. But I like Fury. Whenever I'm playing against Fury, I don't feel like I've been cheated when my opponent plays it. I just feel like it's a strong card. Okay. How about yourself? How do you feel?
I think it's more powerful than it's maybe being given credit for, because I think unlike a number of the other elementals, if they're pitch cast, you can get card parity, even potentially card advantage on the right board. And I think that's why it was the first one to get banned in Modern, and why I think people still talk about it. If you're playing a creature-heavy deck, especially lots of mana dorks and small creatures, unlike some of the other ones like Solitude and Grief, this one can just be card neutral, but you don't spend any mana, which means you're up in the exchange. And if you somehow get 3 creatures with it, you are kind of winning that game. We played a game, didn't we? We played our Test Ang Zuko game.
Yes.
Fury just destroyed you. So I'm very surprised you're saying there going, yeah, it's a fun card. I like it.
Yeah, but I think you had an empty board as well. So Toxic Deluge off the top would have done the same thing.
It would have done, but yeah, this was 0 mana. I think I did play another spell that turn. It didn't cost me any life. It's a different beast. Same as Parallax Wave, I think is a card that if it popped up on a ban list, I'd be like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. It's definitely on a watch list somewhere. It's close to the edge.
I guess that just fundamentally, like, there's a difference in our perspectives, generally speaking, which is that just generally speaking, I'm very reserved with bans. I don't necessarily think that I should be on a rules committee deciding bans, because I think not enough stuff would get banned. Because as far as I'm concerned, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, a card has to be probably Nardu levels of broken before I'm willing to ban it.
And even then, you don't want Nardu banned.
Yeah. Ultimately, I like playing Magic to play powerful spells and to do powerful things, and for my opponent to do the same. So
yeah, of course.
I think that's probably a big part of the reason why cards like Parallax Wave and Fury aren't my priority for a ban.
No, that's fine. I think just touching on a theoretical rules committee, there should be a variety of voices, right? There should be people like you who are conservative with bans, maybe people a little bit more like me who are more interested in seeing bans more regularly, shake things up and whatnot. Anyway, we're moving on to another kind of category now. It's cards that haven't been unbanned. Yes.
I think there's a lot of cards we could have been talking about here. I'm talking about three that I've heard mentioned. So we're not going to discuss the entire ban list.
I think you picked a good three to talk about.
So what's the first one, Adam?
Heist of Saint Draft. I remember this card a lot because I started playing Magic in paper during Return to Ravnica and Innistrad blocked. So this was a huge beast. I know Standard is not the same as Duel Commander, but this is such a beast. Yeah. This card would be really interesting to see in the command zone. We recently had a card that you'll remember the name of. It didn't have hexproof, but it had like Ward 4 or something. It was a blue creature with partner that you effectively want to put enchantments on. Esador.
Esiol Wardwing Familiar.
See, I knew you'd know the name. I had to prompt you a little bit, but I knew you'd get there. So this looks like a more powerful version of that. This has got just straight up hex proof. It's also a really, really fast clock in a 20 card format. 20 life format, sorry. Because you give it something that gives it aqueous form or something else that gives it unblockable, and you're swinging in for 6 a turn. I would like to see this unbound. I don't think this is overly powerful. It's 3 mana, which is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a cool card. I think it would be a nice addition to the format. What do you think?
I mean, to be honest with you, unlike you, I've not been playing Magic that long. To be honest with you, I've never played with or against this card. I read it and it kind of feels good. But I mean, like you said, if the fact that I think Hexproof is such a powerful mechanic.
Yeah.
If this card had Shroud, this wouldn't even be a conversation because I feel like it's just too easy to interact with at that point. But Hexproof, meaning that I can't do anything about it. To be honest with you, Adam, I'd kind of love for you to build up a Geist of St. Draft deck just for me to play against and just to see how powerful it is. I've got no idea if this card should be banned or not.
It hits like a freight train. I mean, it doesn't have the same combo potential as something like Light Paws, but imagine Light Paws with a bunch of counterspell back up and hitting for 6 as a minimum. Not starting off as a 2/2, but starting off as like a 6/6.
Yeah,
it would be a cool deck.
Maybe with Deadpool legal, it's fine to keep this card back.
Perhaps, yeah, maybe. Okay, so what's the next card that we want to talk about?
The next card we're talking about is Uro. It's a 3-mana Simic card, so that's obviously a strong place to be starting. There's a lot of really strong 3-mana Simic cards. 1 green-blue for a 6/6. When it enters, sacrifice it unless it escaped. When it enters or attacks, gain 3 life, draw a card, then put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. And then you can pay 4 mana, 2 green, 2 blue, exile 5 other cards from your graveyard and escape it.
Yeah.
So I think, again, this card got banned in Standard, I believe. Is that correct?
And Modern.
What I'm saying now? And Modern. So it's seen a fair few bans. I think it's one of those. I think that when you first read this card, it doesn't read as extremely broken.
Mm-hmm.
At least to me, when it first came out, I didn't see its power level until I started seeing some gameplay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a ridiculous beta.
It is a ridiculous beta, yes.
And I think it has so much relevance going into the late game. The escape ability means that it can be recast several times throughout the game.
Yeah.
It's got an extremely powerful enters and attacks trigger.
Yeah.
Notably, it can't really be abused too much. It just plays really well fairly, but you can't really reanimate these cards because if you reanimate them, they die because they weren't escaped.
You don't need the claws. Yeah, they don't escape. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think that matters, but yeah, it's a point.
Yeah. The only thing you can do with this is like stifling it. But yeah, a lot of people seem to think it would be fine in the 99. The only kind of argument for that isn't necessarily saying that Uro isn't strong enough to be banned, but just in terms of like general card power level going up, perhaps the general card power level has reached a point where Uro is less of an exception and more part of the rule. I'm not saying that's necessarily true, but I'm guessing that's probably the logic behind the unban. What do you think, Adam?
I think it's probably too much. I think like you said, at first read you like meh, but 3 mana doesn't seem like a lot to draw a card but land into play, but they also gain 3 life. That's a really important buffer. It's kind of easy to build a deck that can recur it fairly frequently. You want to play in a 3/4 color deck and have lots of fetch lands and cantrips. And I think it's kind of brutal for a creature, especially aggressive creature decks. And I think you've pointed out off camera that mono red is already a struggling archetype. And this would make red decks worse. Just because it's a 6/6 is really hard for toughness-based removal to deal with, and it can just gain you life and draw you cards repeatedly. That's very difficult to interact with. It's just your classic busted Simic 3 mana card. I can sort of see why this is still banned in the 99. I think it's a windmill slam into any deck that's running these colors. Maybe not. I don't know. Like you say, maybe the power level has caught up with it.
And what's the next card we're talking about, Adam?
Next card is another card I've put on the stack many, many, many times. Is a Ragavan Nimble Pilferer, which is a single red or a legendary creature, Monkey Pirate, which is a 2/1. It has whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you make a treasure token and exile the top card of that player's library, and until the end of turn, you may cast that card. And it has dash for 1 red, so you can cast it. It has haste, but then it returns to your hand at the end of turn. This card is all kinds of powerful on turn 1. It's kind of like Leyline of you win the game. Maybe that's a little bit excessive, but It's definitely, at the very least, it's a removal check. If you let this get out of hand, it will win you the game. And it's nothing, well, not nothing, but it's very little to do with exiling your opponent's library. It's about making a treasure every turn. A 1-mana creature that hits your opponent makes a treasure in any format that's very low to the ground, has very lean curves. That treasure is huge. It's enormous. Getting 1 or 2 extra treasures on turns, 1 and 2 and whatever, it will send you way far ahead of the game. And that's why it's so brutal. That's why it's so backbreaking. If you just happen to randomly get to cast cards off the top of your opponent's library, that's also very morally backbreaking for them. But it's certainly not where the card is most powerful. And then later on, when you think it would lose relevance because it's a 2/1 and it has dash, you can dash it in, it'll avoid sorcery speed removal. I'd love to see this unbanned, which makes me think that it's probably too good.
I completely... Yeah, I completely... So when this card first was spoiled, obviously, I like a lot of the cards here. I could see how powerful it was straight away.
Yeah.
The thing that but apart from the fact that I really underestimated the dash ability. I was kind of like, why would I pay 2 mana to dash in my 1-drop? Why would I spend 2 mana on my 1-drop and then I have to pick it up again? I just thought it was so mana inefficient. But I think, as you've put it really well, but the dash ability is an extremely powerful part of this card. Look, I want to see this card unbanned. You kind of half-jokingly said in our WhatsApp group earlier, someone said unban Ragavan in 99. I said unban Ragavan in the command zone. And I'm only half-joking, but I mean, as we said, mono red isn't necessarily the most relevant archetype at the moment.
Weirdly, I almost think it's worse in the 99 because you have to play mono red. You don't get access to anything else. And not that you necessarily want to play Ragavan as like a protector Ragavan, but red is terrible at protecting its own creatures. All the other colors are much better at doing it. So I'm not saying that Ragavan in the command zone is a bad card, but I almost kind of prefer it in the 99, where you can just play it on turn 1 when people aren't necessarily expecting it.
Yeah.
You go, crap, I didn't keep a hand with Fatal Push, now I die.
I think, again, one of the arguments I do see for unbanning Ragavan is that, like, there are cards, I think, of similar power level to Ragavan that are legal. I think
there are, yes.
The key example here is, like, Ocelot Pride. Yeah. Which is kind of like the Ragavan killer in a way, I think, in terms of the impact on
power crept Ragavan is crazy.
And also, just like in a 1v1 fight, Ocelot Pride wins. It's got first strike. It's a 1-1 with first strike.
And it needs to time 1/1s and stuff.
Yeah. So, this isn't saying Ragavan's not powerful, but it's just, I feel like, again, the power level of Magic in a whole is rising up. Even if not now, I do think we're going to see a future where Ragavan gets unbanned. It might be a while away, but...
Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, you.
I was going to say, only kind of similar to what I said with like Parallax is one of those, it's like the reverse. So, like, if I saw this unbanned, I'd be like, oh. I wouldn't think, oh my God, what are these crazy people doing? This is insane. I would just think, okay, cool, I'm gonna find mine, dust it off, sleeve it up and play it.
MTG finance tips with Dueling Grounds, buy up Ragavans now before they're unbanned. I think I did say that we were going to talk about 3, but I have actually just decided I want to talk about one last card.
All right.
Just because I think we were talking about this card before, and I think there was some interesting ideas we had about it.
Find out what it is. Tell me.
Tasigur the Golden Fang.
Yeah.
6 mana, 5 and a black for a 4/5 with Delve. It's a legendary human shaman. Delve meaning that when you cast this spell, you can exile cards from your graveyard to pay 1 of the generic cost.
Yeah.
So in theory, this can cost you 1 mana and exiling 5 cards. And then it has an activated ability where you pay 4 mana, 2, and then 2 hybrid green-blue to mill 2 cards and return a non-land card of an opponent's choice from your graveyard to your hand. So, I mean, Tasigur sees a lot of play in CDH, or it used to. I think it's kind of losing relevance there.
Is it? Okay.
And I think that ultimately, I'm kind of on the opinion that I'd like to see it unbanned. It has one main reason for being banned, and that is that Delve means that it can kind of cheat command attacks.
Yeah.
Whereas traditionally your commander will cost 2 more every time it's died. Tasigur can just exile 2 additional cards from the graveyard. In terms of the card being good, I mean, it's a 1 mana 4/5, which isn't that exciting in a format like CDH, but in a 1v1 format, a 1 mana 4/5 is a lot more interesting.
Pretty sizable here, yes.
Its activated ability isn't very good, but like in theory, if you can make infinite mana, then it's an outlet for that infinite mana.
Yeah.
On rate, it's 4 mana to get a card from your graveyard back, but you mill 2 cards first, so you can't really sculpt your graveyard to guarantee what you're going to get back.
No.
And so I think that the main thing worth noting is it's 6 mana. It's quite good with cards like Neoform and Eldritch Evolution. It is the only real synergy cards I'd see. But Adam, you think the card should stay banned? Do you still think?
Yeah, we talked about this before this video, and I think that's one I would be surprised at seeing unbanned. I'd be kind of shocked because it does cheat the command attacks, and I think that it's Delve is always underestimated in any format that it's in. And I think this is just to have this repeatable kind of 1 mana 4/5. Like we've said before with the activated abilities on things that aren't great, it's not a downside to have that activated ability. It is card advantage. It does mean that this creature is now 3 colors, which gives you access to lots of other bits that will help it. Like green and blue and black are good at self-mill and filling up the graveyard for value. I think this one is too good. I think because it cheats the command decks, I think this one should stay banned, personally.
But do you think that it would become meta-defining? Do you think it'd be one of the best decks in the format?
I presume, I must do if I think it should stay unbanned. Yeah, because for power level reasons and not because of gameplay reasons. I think just having a 1 mana 4/5 in your command zone that always costs 1 is too much.
Yeah, I'm of the perspective that I could be wrong about this. I don't think Tasiga would be format defining. I think it would be a real deck, but I don't think it'd be like the best deck in the format. So I guess my perspective when it comes from I understand cheating command decks is something that the rules committee doesn't really like, but I don't think that we should ban cards just for that reason. If there is a power level concern as well, then fair play. But if it's just because of the cheating command decks thing, I think then I'd like to see it unbanned. But
okay.
That's all the cards we're talking about today. Ultimately, not the most impactful, not the most cards banned, but I still think quite an impactful BNR.
Yeah.
Just by removing Nadu from the format.
Yeah, no, that makes a big change to the metagame. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so some good discussion there on cards that haven't been mentioned. Adam, I need to leave now and go rebuild my flubs deck.
Yes, okay. Good luck.
Anyway, thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day.